Good morning, everybody. My name is Cherie Lindberg, and I am from Get Connected Counseling, and I'm going to talk to you today about creating and sustaining positive mindsets. So there's my name, Cherie Lindberg, Get Connected Counseling and Consulting, and there's the website if you have any follow-up. I'm going to just adjust this a little bit. There we go. Okay. So this is just going to be a brief video about what I know about creating and sustaining positive mindsets. And it's important to think about this differently than what is out there. It is not a quick fix. So creating new habits inside you, really important. I'm going to move this down just a little bit. There, you can see me. That way you can see the title. Creating new habits inside of you, because that's what this is learning a new lifestyle, a new way of being, and creating some new habits that maybe you haven't learned. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So creating a shifting mindset. Some of these ideas, please take what you like and leave the rest. You're going to hear about them out there as you read and so forth. But, some of these might work for you. Some of them might not work for you. Every person is unique and different. And so I would just encourage you to give these different things a try, because you never know how something might stick. All right. So from the very beginning, let me talk to you about a gratitude journal. So every morning I get up, and here's my journal. And I take some time and I write down 3 or 4 things that I'm grateful for. And it's just a good way to start out my day and to think positively, and it kind of sets the tone for the day. The other thing I use my journal for is increasing my own self-awareness. And we're going to talk more about that in point number 2. I'm going to give you 4 different things. I wanted to keep it simple, manageable, so that you can start to begin some of these practices and see if they work for you. What I notice out in the world today is about when we talk about change, that people either rush towards change and they do too much too soon and it's not sustainable, or they do it for a couple of days and they stop. So there's a consistency issue. And so if you're really motivated and wanting to do this for yourself, really be honest with yourself about what appeals to you, what, so maybe you're going to feel some positive energy towards an idea, and give that a try first so that we can make it more manageable and realistic, because we want to set you up for success. We don't want to give you a bunch of things and then you can't do them, and then you can be able to say, oh, it's another thing I failed at. Okay? So really be realistic with yourself. So checking in with yourself, okay, that's a good segue. What is really going to work for me? In psychology, we have a word that we talk about when people get like overly upset, or there's a pattern to how they react, and we call it a trigger. And so the journal can also be used for awareness of your triggers and keeping track of, like, when did you blow up? When did you have a meltdown? When did you get overwhelmed? And kind of keeping track and seeing if there's a pattern to that. What we've learned in psychology is that our upbringing can influence what we call it attachment style. So you can look up, there's actually a free attachment style. So if you Google that, you can take the quiz to see what your attachment style is. And so basically it's a pattern of relating, it's a pattern of showing up in the relationship, and it can cause difficulty, as we're adults. And a lot of this comes from when we're kids. So the first 7 years of our life, we are downloading the messages from the people that are around us. And so if we have very nurturing, caring people around us, that's fantastic, because we're going to have very nurturing, caring messages inside of us, which later on become our habits of relating. But if we have adults around us, teachers, or if we have adults around us or teachers around us that struggle a little bit, those messages equally get downloaded inside, and then that's how we relate later in life too. Again, the first 7 years of life, it's pretty much an unconscious process. We're not aware that that's going on. As different brain centers light up later on, we start to be able to have some self-awareness and be aware of some, maybe the negative messages we're telling ourselves, like, oh gosh, what's your problem, or you're stupid, or whatever. And again, these are not things that we would say to our best friend, but we would say to ourselves inside. And so part of this journey towards creating positive mindsets for yourself might be learning new skills to manage your triggers. How do I help myself become calm when I'm in an agitated state and I lash out at my loved ones and people that I care about? So again, learning some of these new skills, you can shift those negative thoughts in your head to more of a positive mindset. And the more that you practice that, that becomes the new habit. And so that's why I called this creating new habits inside of you, because we all kind of have a way that we show up, and that's influenced by our upbringing. It's influenced by our temperament. It's influenced by what we learned. It's not this real simple, easy fix. But with nurturing and care, we can certainly shift things, which is exciting. So the last point on number 2 is being your own cheerleader. So if your best friend calls you up and says, oh my God, I blew up at my kids and I was so upset, and what would you say to that best friend? Having some self-compassion, empathy for yourself is really, really important. So that you can be your own cheerleader inside yourself, that will keep you going when the going gets tough. All right, so those are our first 2, creating a shifting mindset, some ideas to start with a journal, and number 2, checking in with yourself. Okay, so continuing with creating new habits inside of you. Number 3, being aware and mindful. What do you feed your brain? So this really will impact your ability to keep a positive mindset, your physical health, your mental well-being, your own spiritual health. Like, what are some of your habits? What do you watch on TV, read, and who do you spend time with? These are important aspects, because just like they say you are what you eat, you're also what you bring in. So I really spend a lot of time with friends and family that are positive. The world itself can be very negative. The news can sensationalize negativity and so forth. And so, like, maybe doing a reflection and a review, like, are the people around me energy givers or are they energy drainers? Now, this isn't a judgment. It's not about judging them, but it is about taking a look at what helps you remain positive. And I know I tend to be very sensitive. And if I'm around people that have a consistent negative pattern or showing up in a negative way, it can affect me. And so, I'm not saying that I get everyone that tends to be negative out of my life, or any negative situation, because things will happen, but I'm talking about overall. We all know individuals who consistently show up negative or pessimistic and so forth. And I eliminate or significantly reduce my contact time there, because I want to be around people that are positive, full of energy, full of life, because we can everyone can rise each other up. They have more of a healthy perspective, which, no pun intended with what we're talking about here, healthy perspectives, right? The group of people that are going to be coming online and talking about all the different things that they've learned in their career or personally. And sometimes I blend both of those, because I want people to know I'm a human being as well. And these are all the things that I've learned along the way. And I want to be inspiring, and I want to be hopeful to people for their futures. Like, you can change. You can live the life that you would like to lead, but it's going to take effort and motivation on your part. And maybe sometimes you're going to need support in order to do that. So do you reach out to friends? Research shows that being connected and having relationships is one of the reasons why people do well in life and have well-being. Another important aspect of all of this is to know, this is kind of a brain factoid, Rick Hansen, it's a good resource for you, he wrote the book Buddha's Brain, and he talks about, it's a book about neuroscience and understanding your brain, but layman's terms. It's not a lot of gobbledygook, which is good, because I really think it's important for us to understand how our brain works. And he puts it in very common language so that it's easy to understand. And so what's really interesting to know is that our brain is hardwired for negativity. I didn't know this until I started studying neuroscience and was in psychology. And why is that so important? Well, we already got one strike against us. So beating ourselves up when we're negative, that's not going to get us anywhere. The reason our brain is hardwired for negativity is to help us survive and to help us, be aware of danger. That's a good thing, okay? Now, it's hard because then that means we tend to go towards that. But here's something else our brain does. That's amazing. This part of our brain, called the neocortex, is a very complex part of the brain, and it can observe and watch ourselves. I know that kind of sounds kind of whoa, but you can go inside yourself and you can watch your behavior. You can watch your thoughts. You can watch what you're doing. And because of that, we have choice and we can be intentional about what we do. And so what's great is that we can start to, with practice, we can start to command our own minds. We can shift it. We can refocus or reframe on what we want to attend to. And so there's a saying that, like, wherever our focus goes, so too does our energy. And so we can shift things. So if we notice that we're going negative, and that's what I'm talking to you about today, what are some things that I can bring into my life that help me shift or reframe into a positive mindset? Because I don't want you to think that you're never going to think negative. I mean, it's part of who we are as human beings. But how can I shift it and command my own mind into a positive mindset, and that becomes the new norm, or that I shift very, very quickly, like I don't spiral down into negativity? And so that's what we're talking about. What's really exciting is that we can shift our mindsets with intentionality, and it's up to us to discover what works for us. And so I'm going to continue to give you some different ideas here. So number 4, and our last point here, staying conscious of your intentions. If you really want to shift to a positive mindset, it's going to be important for you to put things in place that are going to help you be conscious of that intention. So here's a couple of different ideas. So these are Louise Hay's affirmation cards. So I have some of these that I put in my journal as bookmarks around my mirror in the morning. So this one says, I return my body to optimal health by giving it what it needs every level. Okay. Another one, I really like this one. I meditate on a regular basis and recap benefits from this practice. Okay. So sometimes we don't even know how to think positively. And so we can start out any of these cards that like grab us. This one says, I see the world through eyes of love and acceptance. All is well in my world. Anything that we gravitate towards or makes us go, inside, these are some things that can be helpful to us. Another conscious reminder to be positive. I have these like little rocks, these little heart rocks, and I give them out to my clients. Sometimes people are more tactile and they need something to hold on to. So if they're stressed, they can hold on to the heart and go, oh, okay, yep. Remember, even though this is a tough time right now, my intention is to go through the world with love and acceptance. Another place that you can get some of these cards is Notes from the Universe, Abundance, tut.com. Again, affirmation cards, okay? Music, there's a lot of people that use that. And then Brendan Bouchard came up with this idea, and I absolutely love it, and I use it a lot. He said, pick 3 words that speak to you, and then put them on your phone and set an alarm to them so that every day they're kicking you into a reminder, or they're kicking you into a conscious level of how you want to show up. So I do that, and it's very helpful. And I do find sometimes where it like really boosts my energy. And sometimes I recognize, oh my gosh, I haven't been conscious for a few hours here. I've been, busy on tasks and so forth. But it gets me to stop and think, of course, I had to do 4 words instead of 3, but, you know, putting in there intentional, alive, you know, fully alive, you know, believe, consciousness, and inspiring. I think that's 5 words, but these are some of the words that really speak to me and how I want to live my life. And so my phone alarms at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is usually, you know, right when I'm getting ready either to leave work or right when I'm getting up in the morning, at lunchtime, and then right before I go to bed. So these are reminders to me to check in with myself and to kind of bring me back to consciousness and check in about my day. Like, did I live this way? Okay. Which brings me to the next point, is knowing your values and aligning your behaviors with those values. I can't tell you how many people, what I've noticed, let me say that again. I can't tell you how many people say, okay, this is how I am. This is who I am. But then their behavior does not match. They say this, but they behave like this. And what I notice is that when people are more aligned, now I'm not saying perfect, I'm saying as they're trying to progress and grow and they get closer to aligning their behavior with who they really believe themselves to be and who they want to be in the world, that they're happier. And so checking in with yourself, where are there some places where you might not be aligned? When you're aligned, it's much easier to think better about yourself and have a positive mindset. Okay? And our last point is meditation and mindfulness practices. Richard Davidson from the University of Madison did research on meditation, and the research in a nutshell, so you don't have to go out and read all of it, is that just with 10 minutes a day, where you sit quietly, just 10 minutes a day, okay, and you focus either on your breath or you just notice what's happening inside yourself, will change the brain. We will build new neural pathways. And that's what we're all about here with creating new habits inside of you, is building new neural pathways. It's like, think about your brain as a muscle. You're exercising this muscle by creating these practices so that you're going to be showing up more open, more flexible, and you're going to be able to shift into a positive mindset either more quickly or sustain a positive mindset for longer periods of time before you get triggered or before you find yourself going into negativity. So these are all practices that I've shared with you today. This will be up on the website. There'll be an outline page for reminders, unless you already took notes for this. And so feel free to email me. My website is listed on the first page. If you have questions or follow-up, I would really appreciate that. And I hope you will find some of these helpful and be able to start to incorporate maybe one in your life, because you'll be better for having done that. And so thank you for listening, and I hope everyone is well. Be well.